You stop fighting your emotions, you learn to stay with them. Healing through integration usually begins at a point where most people think they are failing. Nothing feels fixed. Old emotions resurface. Familiar pain returns, and instead of feeling lighter, you feel more aware. This is where many people give up, believing they are going backward, but in reality, this is where real healing starts. For most of your life you were taught, directly or indirectly, that emotions were something to manage, control, or hide. You learned that some feelings were acceptable and others were not. Happiness was encouraged. Sadness was tolerated only briefly. Anger was judged. Fear was dismissed. Vulnerability was misunderstood. So you adapted. You learned to suppress what felt inconvenient. You learned to distract yourself when emotions surfaced. You learned to explain your pain instead of feeling it. This wasn't weakness, it was survival. Integration healing begins when survival strategies are no longer needed, but the nervous system hasn't realized that yet. So emotions rise again, asking to be met instead of avoided. One of the first signs of integration is that you stop trying to escape your emotions. You don't immediately reach for distraction. You don't rush to label the feeling. You don't shame yourself for having it. Instead, you pause. You notice what's happening inside your body: tightness, heaviness, pressure, a sense of discomfort without a clear story, and instead of panicking, you stay. This is new. Before integration, emotions felt like emergencies. When sadness appeared, you felt something was wrong with you. When anxiety showed up, you thought you were regressing. When anger surfaced, you feared losing control. Now, emotions feel like signals. You begin to understand that feelings are not obstacles, they are communication. Each emotion carries information about unmet needs, boundaries, or unprocessed experiences. When you stop resisting them, they begin to speak more clearly. This doesn't mean emotions become pleasant. It means they become honest. You might feel grief without knowing exactly why. You might cry without attaching it to a current event. You might feel tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. These are signs that your system feels safe enough to release what was previously held back. Integration happens when the body finally trusts that you will stay. You no longer abandon yourself emotionally. You don't say, "I shouldn't feel this way." You don't force positivity. You don't compare your healing to others. You let the emotion exist without trying to change it. And something surprising happens. When emotions are allowed, they soften. When they are resisted, they intensify. You start noticing that feelings move through you more naturally. They rise, peak, and pass. They don't get stuck the way they used to. What once lingered for weeks now passes in moments of awareness. This is because emotions were never meant to be permanent states. They become chronic only when they are suppressed. Integration healing teaches you emotional containment, not suppression, not expression without awareness, but presence. You can feel deeply without drowning. You can feel pain without becoming it. You can feel sadness without losing hope. You also stop identifying yourself by your emotions. You are no longer an anxious person. You are a person experiencing anxiety. That distinction changes everything. You start developing emotional trust. You trust that no feeling will destroy you. You trust your capacity to hold discomfort, and because of that trust, emotions stop feeling dangerous. This is not emotional numbness. This is emotional maturity. You don't need to fix yourself anymore. You recognize that nothing inside you is broken, only unheard. Integration is the moment you stop fighting yourself, and that is a powerful sign of healing. Your triggers no longer control you. They begin to teach you before integration. Triggers feel overwhelming and personal. A small comment can ruin your day. A delayed response can create anxiety. A certain tone of voice can activate anger or withdrawal. You react before you even realize what's happening. This is not because you are weak. It's because your nervous system learned to protect you by reacting quickly. Triggers are learned responses. They are emotional memories stored in the body. When something in the present resembles a past experience, even subtly, the body responds as if the past is happening again. Integration healing does not eliminate triggers. It changes how you relate to them. One of the clearest signs that integration is happening is that you begin to notice triggers without immediately acting on them. You feel the reaction, but you pause. That pause is not accidental. It means your awareness is growing. Instead of being pulled into automatic behavior, you observe the sensation, you notice the urge to defend, explain, shut down, or please, and instead of obeying the urge, you stay present, you start asking different questions. Why does this feel familiar? What does this remind me of? What part of me feels threatened right now? These questions create space between stimulus and response. That space is healing. Before integration, triggers felt like proof that something was wrong with you. Now they feel like information. You begin to see patterns, the same emotional reactions showing up in different relationships, the same fears repeating in different situations. And instead of feeling shame, you feel clarity. Clarity brings compassion. You realize that your reactions were learned in environments where you didn't have choice. They were adaptive responses. They helped you survive. Now, you are learning that survival is no longer required. You don't need to react the same way anymore. Integration gives you emotional choice. You still feel activation, but it doesn't own you. You regulate yourself instead of needing others to regulate you. You don't demand reassurance. You don't chase explanations. You don't collapse into old patterns. You become responsible for your inner state, not in a blaming way, but in an empowering one. You also stop personalizing everything. You realize that not every behavior is about you. Other people are acting from their own wounds, fears, and limitations. You stop assuming intent. You stop absorbing responsibility that isn't yours. Triggers lose power when awareness replaces interpretation. Over time, you notice something subtle. The intensity decreases. Situations that once caused strong emotional reactions now feel manageable. You still notice discomfort, but it doesn't escalate. Your nervous system recovers faster. You return to baseline more easily. This is regulation. Integration allows the nervous system to learn safety in the present moment. You prove to yourself, again and again, that you can feel discomfort without collapsing or exploding. You trust yourself, and when self-trust grows, triggers no longer feel threatening. They become reminders of how far you've come. That is deep healing. You feel whole, not perfect, not fixed, just integrated. One of the deepest signs of healing through integration is a quiet sense of wholeness. Not excitement, not constant happiness, but steadiness. You no longer feel fragmented inside. Before integration, parts of you were split. One part tried to be strong, another part carried pain, one part wanted connection. Another feared it. These parts were not wrong. They were protective. Integration brings them together. You stop rejecting parts of yourself. You allow softness without shame. You allow strength without hardness. You allow uncertainty without panic. You stop performing healing. You don't need to appear evolved. You don't need to explain your growth. You don't need validation for your boundaries. You simply live differently. Silence feels safe. Being alone feels neutral, or even nourishing. You don't fear your own thoughts. This is a major shift. You stop seeking external validation to feel okay. Approval becomes pleasant, not necessary. Criticism becomes information, not identity. You trust your inner compass. Your decisions come from alignment, not fear. You say no without guilt. You walk away without closure. You stop chasing what doesn't choose you. You don't need intensity to feel alive. You don't need chaos to feel connection. Integration creates emotional sobriety. You are present. You are grounded. You are here. You don't erase your past. You integrate it. Your experiences become wisdom, not wounds. You remember without reliving, and perhaps the most important sign of all, you feel at home in yourself, not because life is perfect, but because you no longer abandon yourself when it isn't. That is integration, and that is real healing.